I'm striving to get rich. That's why I almost went 2 years without buying shoes and fits. Things change now. My mom hearing me with my music and she look a little proud.
Yo, what's up, world? Welcome back to the channel. APW Sports signing in. And it is Tuesday, so it's the week 15 power rankings. I'm gonna make this intro short and sweet. So let's just dive into this. First, we have Washington football team. We're gonna put them in a D. Offensively, they didn't look the same versus Seattle. Defensively, they kind of struggled a bit. Even though I'm glad that Dwayne Haskins was back in the starting lineup. Unfortunate circumstance was due to injury, but I'm glad he was back in the lineup. I still think they're on track to win the division, even though that's just the worst division in football. But I still think Washington is on track to win that division with Chase Young and that defense, who's very, very good. So Washington is at a D. Next, we're going to have the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to put them in a D as well. But like I've said about this team before, they have a lot of injuries. They play extremely hard, but it was just too many injuries and too much to happen to the San Francisco football team for them to overcome and kind of repeat last year's NFC Championship. Next, we're going to have my Chicago Bears. Going to put them in a C. David Montgomery in the running game looked very, very good. They're starting to use Mitch Trubisky in a way I've been clamoring for them to use him the entire time, rolling him out. Defensively, they've kind of been in a slumps a bit defensively, which is unheard of from this Bears team. But overall, they've been a lot better than in a 6-game losing streak. I'll just say that much. Next, we have the Cincinnati Bengals coming off a major upset of the Pittsburgh Steelers on Monday night. I am going to put Cincinnati at a D. I've always been one that I like how this team plays. I like how they fight. They might not be ultra talented. They might not be fully constructed roster, but I love how hard this team plays despite all that's happened with Burrow and Mixon being out. Defensively, they played a very, very smart game against the Steelers. So I'm going to have the Bengals at a D. Next, we're going to have the Buffalo Bills. I have to put them in an A. I have been high on this team all season long. I've been a big believer in Josh Allen. I've been a big believer in the things this defense can do. It might not be full of household names defensively, but as a unit, this defense is absolutely elite. Tre'Davious White has turned into one of the better corners in the league. Jerry Hughes is having a tremendous season. So I'm going to have this Buffalo Bills team at an A, capturing their first AFC East title since '95. I was 4 years old. So it's good to see that the Buffalo Bills are back to that top contending team. Next, we're going to have the Denver Broncos. Put them at an F. They have, I think Drew Lock, he has his moments. Defensively, they have their moments, but I think Buffalo just outmatched them last week. I've never really been a big believer in this Broncos team. Even before the season started, I wasn't a believer in what this Broncos team can do. So I'm going to have them in an F. Next, we're going to have Cleveland. This is going to be a tough rank for me because it's hard. It's either A or B for this Cleveland team. But I'm going to put them in a B. I think they struggled a little bit too much against the Giants. Baker Mayfield, I still been a big believer in this Browns team. I've been a big believer in the defense. And I really like Nick Chubb in the running game and Kareem Hunt in the running game and what they're able to do running the football. I think their brand of football is the brand of football that can really be successful in the playoffs. That run the ball in heavy run and throw the ball when you need to type of offense. So I'm going to put the Browns at a B. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Comeback win over Atlanta. I'm still going to have this team at a B. Like I've said before many times, never been a big believer in the secondary. The front seven is very good, but the corners of the Buccaneers, I'll keep saying this, I don't believe in them. Offensively, I think they're starting to really hit their stride. Antonio Brown catching his first touchdown of this since last year. They need to run the football more, I'll say that. I think if they commit a little bit more to running the football, I think their offense will be a lot different. And I think they'll be more successful if they start to hand the ball to Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette just a little bit more. Because the offensive line has not been bad for Tampa, but I just think they need to be more physical up front and run the football. Next, we have Arizona coming off a much-needed win against the Eagles. It's hard to judge this team at times, but I'm going to put them at a B. I've always been a big believer in the Cardinals. I've been a big believer in the things that they can do offensively. Defensively, they're starting to really get things together. Marcus Golden is putting it together a really, really great couple of games. Defensively, they still miss Chandler Jones as a pass rusher, but Budda Baker and Patrick Peterson, they've gotten that secondary together for the most part. But offensively, I've always been a big believer in this team, and I still think they can be dangerous if they're clicking on all cylinders. Next, we have the LA Chargers coming off a big win over the Raiders. I'm going to put them in a D. I really like what Justin Herbert has done. I love what Joey Bosa from the Ohio State has done defensively. They ran the football a decent amount. Justin Herbert, I think, is going to be Rookie of the Year. Keaton Allen is still, to me, one of the most underrated receivers in football. Defensively, they've been able to create some turnovers. They've been able to make some things happen. But I'm going to put them in a D just for the overall season. Next, we're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs. I have no other choice but to put this team in an A, especially what they can do offensively. They struggled a little bit against the Saints, but that was coming into that game and expected because the Saints are a really good team. Tyreek Hill is emerging himself into a number one wide receiver. Travis Kelce, even though I still think George Kittle is the best tight end in football, Travis Kelce is like 1A, 1B, 1A. He's been dominant. And Patrick Mahomes, the things that he can do with the multitude of weapons on offense, I still have my questions about this defense. But the way that offense has been clicking the past couple of weeks, it's hard to stop because they have so much that they can throw at you. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts. This is another tough team to judge, but I'm going to put them in a B. I really like what they do defensively. Offensively, they've committed a little bit more to running the football. Phillip Rivers is playing a little bit better. He hasn't been throwing so many turnovers like he's been accustomed to doing the past couple of seasons, in the past couple of weeks, to be honest. So I'm going to put the Colts at a B. I like what they do defensively. I like how physical they are defensively. I like some of the things that they can do. But I'm going to put the Colts at a B. Next, the Cowboys. And for the season, I'm still going to put them in an F. They did beat the San Francisco 49ers, but overall, I still think San Francisco is a better team. But Dallas, it's hard to rank this team with all this going on. The defense, to me, is still not very good. Offensively, they've had Ezekiel Elliott out last week. CeeDee Lamb, I like what he's starting to do offensively, and Amari Cooper. So I'm going to put them at an F, mainly because of the entire season. Next, we're going to have the Miami Dolphins, which I still think is the biggest surprise of this season. Now, this team is also hard to rank, but I'm going to put them at a B. I still think Brian Flores should be in the running for Coach of the Year. The things he's been able to do with this, the entire team. Offensively, Tua is starting to come into fruition, starting to make some rhythm. Running game, I think they could use a little bit more from it. Defensively, I think that's where their specialty is. I think this team defensively is a really good defense. So, and his team, I have to say, is the biggest surprise of this season. Next, we're going to have the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, they come off a tough loss to Arizona. I still have to put them in a D. I think the change from Jalen Hurts, from Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts, I think has made some difference in this offense. They looked a little bit different, but one thing that can be corrected, Jalen Hurts' fumbling problem. He's fumbled the football quite a few times the past 2 weeks, so that needs to be corrected. Defensively, they have to get some things together and shored up if they even want to think about making a playoff run or run at the title. So for them, I'm going to put them at a D. I like how Jalen Hurts came in and played, but he has to correct that fumbling problem. Next, Falcons at another blown lead. ATL has to stand for always throwing leads because they cannot keep a lead to save their life. I think that's like the third or fourth blown lead this season, especially when you had a Buccaneers team that's really good on the ropes and you blow it in the fourth quarter. It's just a typical Falcon story. Typical Falcon story. Next, we're going to have the Giants. I'm also going to put them in a D. The things didn't look the same offensively, especially with Daniel Jones being out against Cleveland. Defensively, they were able to do some things for the most part, especially against a Cleveland offense who was coming off a really explosive game versus a really good Baltimore defense. They were able to do some things defensively to only hold them to 20 points. But offensively, you could tell this team was out of rhythm without Daniel Jones in the lineup. Next, Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, this team is in a disarray. This team is trash. It's a bad football team. Next, the Jets. I can't have their own category anymore. They won a football game. They won a football game against a really good LA Ram team. The LA Rams are a really good team, and the Jets were able to go into Los Angeles and beat them. The Jets won a game. I did not expect that to happen the way they've been this season. Next, Detroit. This team, I'm going to put them at a D. I still like what Matthew Stafford has been able to do. The thing is, Tennessee basically handed it to them. Detroit defensively can do some things. At some points, they're able to make some plays. The injuries have hurt them along the secondary. Offensively, they haven't been really consistent, especially in the running game. And I still think Matthew Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in football. So Detroit is a D. Next, Green Bay. They've been hot. Even though that second half against Carolina was very, very slow. That second half was very, very slow. And I think if they would have came out in the second half and really put him down the throats, it would have been a different story. But this team is still playing very, very good. Aaron Rodgers is right there in the MVP conversation, right along with Mahomes. He's right there in that conversation the way he's been playing this season. The defense is starting to make some plays. They're starting to step up more. Even though they still struggle against the run a bit, this defense is still making some plays. Next, we're going to have the Carolina Panthers. They have been on a slide. I still believe this football team has good things in their future, but as for the moment, I'm going to put them at a D. Even though I like Bridgewater, I like some of the things that they're able to do, I just think they're a little bit too young, and they're probably a couple of pieces away from contending. But I think there are brighter things in the future for this Carolina Panther football team. But as of right now, defensively, they finally made some plays. They were finally able to step up against a really good Aaron Rodgers and a Packers offense. And offensively, I think they need to be a little more consistently. So I'm going to put them at a D. Next, the New England Patriots, who've officially been eliminated from playoffs. Tell me when the last time you could say that. So I'm going to put them at a D. Another loss. Cam Newton has not looked the same since his positive test. Defensively, they're missing a lot of weapons. Stephon Gilmore goes down. So I think this team, is in a retool, restage mode, which is not a bad thing for them. But as of right now, they have not been playing very good. The Raiders, I'm going to put them in a C. Which team it is? It's almost on a weekly basis with this Raiders team. Which team is going to show up? Is it going to be the team that plays well against Kansas City, or is it going to be the team that got blown out by the Falcons and got blown out by the Colts? This team is hard to judge because it's so flip-flop. They had opportunities to win that game against the Chargers, and they did not capitalize on them. Derek Carr's injury, we'll see how that goes going forward. But Marcus Mariota did come in, and he really played some really solid football to kind of resurrect his own career. So, which Raiders team is going to show up? That's why I got him at a C. You don't know which team is going to show up. Next, the Rams, they automatically get dropped from a C to a C, especially losing to the Jets. Coming into this game, the Rams have been playing really good football, and you lose to a Jets team? They did not look very good offensively. They didn't start getting things rolling into the second half and almost the fourth quarter against the Jets team, who's been abysmal all season. There's no way they should have came out and played bad football. I definitely get this any given Sunday, but the way things look for the Rams, it did not look good offensively, and defensively they struggled mightily. They struggled just a tad bit, so I'm going to put them there. Next, we're going to have the Baltimore Ravens. This is another tough team to rank, but I'm going to put them in a B. You know what? Yeah, I'm going to put them in a B. I still am waiting for this team to really, really click offensively, because the running game is elite with Lamar, J.K. Dobbins from the Ohio State, and Gus Edwards. But I'm just waiting for this passing game to really be explosive. I'm not going to count too much this week because it was against an awful Jacksonville team. And when they have been playing good competition, it's been basically running the football. And I think last year's downside of this Ravens team, I think still exists with them being able to be explosive in the passing game, especially pushing the ball deep down the field. Defensively, this team is still very good defensively, but that one thing offensively is just, I think is going to hold them back. Next, we have the New Orleans Saints coming off a tough loss to the Chiefs. I still have them as a top team in the NFL. I still have them as an A. I mean, that's basically battle of the Titans when you're talking about the Chiefs versus the Saints. Drew Brees is back. He was able to play some decent football, but I think that defense still very good, but it just got beat a couple times by a very, very explosive Kansas City offense, a very, very potent Kansas City offense. I still believe in this football team. I still believe they can make some real noise. I still believe they can do some damage. I'm not going to drop them because of that loss. They looked really good at times, but at times they did tend to struggle a bit with along those weapons of Kansas City, but I'm still going to leave New Orleans in an A. Next, we're going to have Seattle. I'm going to put them at a B. Defensively, they were finally able to make some adjustments, albeit it's against Washington, even though Washington was coming to this game as being solid offensively, especially when it comes to moving the football. But defensively, they were able to make some plays, and having Jamal Adams back in the lineup is very, very key. Russell Wilson, I don't think he's in the MVP. He's in the MVP discussion, but I don't think he's going to win it at this point. But he's still one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. He's very accurate throwing the ball deep. I think they could use a little bit more physicality as far as running the football. This is my opinion. Even though they did run it a little bit more against a very, very potent Kansas City, Washington defensive front. But I think they need to be more physical up front as far as the offensive line, definitely. Next, Pittsburgh, I have to drop them. I had them at an A basically all season. I have to drop this football team. I have to drop them. 3 straight losses. I can understand that Washington lost because the defense of them was very, very good and they were ready. Buffalo, I've always been high on Buffalo to start with. But now you lose a game like that to the Bengals. Steelers, to me, have been figured out. They have been figured out. They have been figured out. Stop the short passing game because they have struggled to run the football. Defensively, they still were able to do some things, but offensively, not really being able to run the football and sustain drives, I think really tired them out. But this team struggles to run the football, and they haven't been able to push the ball deep downfield. And I think teams are finding that blueprint out, and they're really learning to stop it. So I'm going to have to drop Pittsburgh to a B. Next, we're going to have the Houston Texans. I love Deshaun Watson, but this offensive line is awful. This offensive line is awful in protecting them. Defensively, they still struggle. I don't like putting them at an F. I really don't. But this football team is bad. It's bad. And I can thank Bill O'Brien for that one. I think Bill O'Brien really ruined this Texans team with the roster moves and things that they've done. I hate to even put the Texans that low, but next, Tennessee, I'm going to put them at a B. Derrick Henry, very, very strong running game. Tannehill's been making some plays. As far as a passing game, I really like some of the things they're able to do defensively with Malcolm Butler in the fold. So I'm going to put Tennessee at a B. I've been a fan of the way that Mike Vrabel has coached this team. Mike Vrabel, Ohio State alumni. So I really like some of the things that this Tennessee Titans team has been able to do. I still believe that their brand of football does carry to the playoffs just like it did last year. So I'm really going to have a little bit more expectations of this Titans team, especially physicality. Next, and last but not least, the Minnesota Vikings dropping into a D. They did look solid at times against the Bears, but they really struggled to stop the run. The passing game for the Bears did not necessarily look the greatest, but they were able to really move the football against the Vikings team, who I think schematically has a good defense, but Minnesota just doesn't have the pieces there. Kirk Cousins struggled at times. He had his moments. Dalvin Cook, still one of the more elite backs in the NFL, was able to do some really good things against a very, very good Bears defense. And the offensive line for the Minnesota Vikings has been very, very physical. Justin Jefferson and Thielen have been very good for this football team. But I just think defensively, their struggle to stop the run really cost them. And also their inability to really play physical defensively and really get after the passer has not bode for them well either. These are my rankings for the week. If you guys agree or disagree, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave this video a like so we can reach out to more people and we can beat the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to the channel. If you got to this point and you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button and click the notification bell so you will not miss a single video. But that's all I've got. APW Sports signing out. Make sure you guys stay safe. Have a great next day, and I'll see you guys in the next vid. Peace.